Welcome back to the Sika Strength News Show. Here we have Johannes Høsflot Klæbo. I've probably butchered that pronunciation. He is the most decorated Winter Olympian of all time. Now, for those of us who aren't in winter climates all that much, and certainly in Ireland we don't have too many snow sports, the Winter Olympics sometimes get slept on slightly, and you end up having athletes like this kind of slip away through your fingers. People who are genuinely world-class elite doing insane feats. And then you only see them in an Instagram clip or whatever. And that's why in today's video, we want to dig into this a small bit. So Johannes has 11 Olympic gold medals, all in cross-country skiing events. He won 6 in the 2026 Olympic Games in Milan. He is insanely dominant over the sport. There's a couple of things that cross-country skiing is known for, and one of them is having some of the highest VO2 max numbers of any athletes in any sport. I think we're somewhat biased in terms of watching athletes playing field sports, and you see these athletes being super successful. They're doing incredible feats of athleticism, but they rarely get highly specialized to the point like we'll see some of the Winter Olympians or Summer Olympians getting to. And VO2 max is a classic case of this. Even when we look at the most fit soccer players or AFL players, we never see VO2 numbers anywhere near approaching these levels. So Kipchoge, who had the marathon world record, his VO2 max is estimated to be in the mid to high 80s, right? So 80 milliliters of oxygen per kilo of body weight per minute he's able to use up in his body when he's working out. When we look at some of the cross-country skiers, we're seeing these in the mid to high 90 milliliters per kilo of body weight per minute. This is an absolutely astronomical level of aerobic fitness, and it's something it blows your mind to even think about. So the highest ever measured number is about 101 for our VO2 max. We see multiple cross-country skiers every year and every Olympic cycle being in the mid to high 90s. It is insane to think about that level of fitness.
I'm trying to think of a comparison for the strength training community or people watching this who mightn't be au fait with the kind of VO2 max reference numbers. Like for an average person, if you're in the 60s, you're a very, very fit person. Like you're in fantastic shape. You're possibly running marathons or ultra marathons. If you look at some of those user groups, you'll see something like that. Or, you know, if you look at, for example, if you've ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their VO2 maxes aren't incredibly high, but however, when you do the sport, it feels like a sport with incredibly high demands. And it's something that if you do a couple of rounds of Jiu-Jitsu is very fatiguing, and it feels very, I suppose, kind of what the CrossFitters used to call kind of fire breathy or lungy when you're newer to it. But a VO2 max in the 90s and beyond, it's like a 300 kilo bench press. It's just something that it doesn't even make sense to most people. It just can't, you can't even fathom. I can't fathom what that must be like. So if we watch a session here, this is from his own training vlog. This is from 3 years ago. He's won however many medals there said there. It seems to be Norway just seem to be dominating Winter Olympics. But he's doing a session here where he says, I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times before, and I'm going to do it hundreds and hundreds of times again. It's 5 by 10 minute uphill sessions. And what I love and also personally hate about higher intensity sessions or cardiovascular training or endurance training, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that they require such a different level of mental toughness and ability to adhere to a program because the essentially time under tension is so long. You know, when you see bodybuilders doing sets of 20 and everyone who lifts weights and who does back squats and stuff here, you go for a 20 rep max, you'll know it's with a meaningful weight, it's incredibly tough. And it's something you might do once every 10 years. You might do one and never do one again because you're like, that was awful. But when you look at someone like this, and he talks about this in the clip where he says, why am I doing this? I hate doing this. But he said after he gets it done, he said he loves that he's done it. And it's the same session, which is one of the more interesting things about aerobic conditioning and anaerobic conditioning. We're looking at high intensity stuff here, is the actual sets and reps. Let's compare it to plyometrics, or we compare it to strength training or building muscle, is that we're adapting those sessions very consistently. We're always adjusting them. But when it comes to things like this, its program stays relatively similar. There's definitely nuances, of course, don't get me wrong. But what happens is the intensity you're putting in in those sessions is where those adaptations happen, and making more effort within that time frame. And that's where that mental side of things comes in. Obviously, his genetics are supreme for this. Of course, he's possibly one of the fittest people to ever live, almost certainly. But the level, even for someone like him, who is clearly talented at this, who is clearly a full-time athlete, who's clearly well supported, who's training in what appears to be some kind of alpine paradise, and he still has to go, why am I doing this session? Why am I doing this? And he has to do that 5 by 10 minutes. It's the same session, he said. He's done it hundreds of times before. 5 by 10 minutes uphill. I just love that aspect of that sport, that it's a different demand. You know, for example, when you looked at the Bulgarian weightlifters, and everybody in most sports have heard about this, where the athletes were essentially sandbagging sessions because that Ivan Abajev, who was known as the Butcher, was pushing them so far in sessions that they would pretend to miss a weight. They would wait till the coach looks away and then drop a barbell. And they would be injured, or they'd load one side of the barbell lighter so they could lift a little bit less weight overall. Anything to make these sessions a little bit easier. And the mental demand this placed on those athletes was incredibly tough. But what I always find really interesting, and from a coaching side of view, is the mental demand that this kind of training places on those athletes. Both groups are incredibly talented. Nobody would say either group is incredibly soft. But I'm sure then obviously if you put Johannes in the gym doing stuff like that or whatever, it's going to be tough for him, right? That's not what we're arguing. We're not trying to compare here. What I'm really just enamored by is how sickening these sessions are. And even someone who is clearly phenomenally talented is still like, what the fuck am I doing? And he has got his fortune on his line. He's got his country watching him. He's got like 300,000 subscribers or more. There's hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. He's an absolute phenomenon. Everybody loves him, and he still is like, oh my god, I have to do 5 by 10 minutes uphill again. I think it's just, there's something which we can all appreciate, which is, it's horrible to do, but then we can all appreciate then at the end when he's finished, we're like, that's it. And I think it's definitely a lesson specifically on programming when it comes to aerobic stuff, where people ask about how do I progress my conditioning, or how do I progress my HIIT? And most often the answer is put more effort in. That's how you progress. You do more in that time frame that you've given.
The clip we initially brought up at the start of this was him skiing uphill in one of the events he ended up winning at the Winter Olympics this year. And the clip got a massive amount of traction because he was doing about 5-minute mile pace going uphill in skis in snow, right? It is insane. And it's been made into a meme at this point. He looks like he's sprinting uphill just with skis on his feet because he is sprinting uphill. And I think you can understand, like...
It looks like he's sprinting because he is.
Yeah. There are certain events in certain sports, when you look at them, you will incorrectly say, how hard really is that, you know? You look at things and there mightn't be an immediate, apparent view of how difficult it is to do that thing or how much training goes in to get there. I think everybody will look at that and say, my God, that's an insane pace. And it's 1K events, 5K events, 10K events. The distances vary, but the speed at which he's going is mind-boggling.
I actually think he's making it look too easy. I think people could look at that and be like, oh, he's just running uphill. Like most people could run 10 miles per hour. Well, not most people, but lots of people could run 10 miles per hour for a sustained distance like that. And I think he's just making it look so casual. He's like a Terminator. What I also love is this kind of the 20th century James Bond suit. Like if James Bond, like this is, he's going to pull out a pistol and whack someone here in a minute. This is what I kind of feel like this is. This is like a movie scene where he's running, because no one should be able to run this fast uphill. It's incredibly impressive. And it's rightfully something I think that went kind of viral with everyone.
I absolutely love it. I love to see an athlete who's so incredibly dominant for so many Olympic cycles as well, continuing to come back and do better and better and better. Like, he has now medaled at 3 different Olympic Games, collecting more and more medals every single time. It's an unbelievable feat of athleticism, and it's a serious dynasty to leave behind.
Now, if you need help with conditioning, in the link below at the Sika Strength app, we've got several different conditioning programs and obviously tons of strength training programs in the link below. It's one of the most well-supported apps in the industry. We are on it Monday through Friday. You get direct coach access. You can just message us directly. No AI. You can send in videos each month. and you will not regret it. Annual subscriptions are coming up soon, which is something tons of people have been asking. We should have done them years ago, but it's something we're finally getting to. They'll be available in the next couple of weeks, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to getting their hands on. Obviously, it's going to be a much more favourable rate per month. But there'll be a limited number of spots available for the first rate, because obviously we want to take care of people who've been with us for years. There's people on the app since day one, 2.5 years ago, or people who've run our programs and stuff before. So we want to make sure that everyone's facilitated. Once we hit a certain number, because we invest so much time in the app, we're going to put the price for the year up after that. So make sure that if you are trying to get on annual, get in early, because once we hit that price, we will have to increase the price just a little bit more after that, because we need to make sure that we're facilitating everyone on the app, because we put so much time into it. We want to make sure you get a good return on it. So check that out in the link below, and go try sprinting uphill.